Warning: this story contains heavy themes of blood, gore, suicide, sexual assault, self-harm, and yandere themes. This story also contains spoilers for manga and anime. Listener's discretion is advised. Act 4. Immortal. Under the silver glow of the moon, Yin sat with her knees pressed onto the tatami floor. Before her was a mirror. As she stared at her reflection in the dim room, the weight of her past enveloped her like a heavy shroud. In her hands was a freshly painted mask. Her fingers caressed the crevices engraved into the wood. Years of wearing a mask had been a shield, a barrier against the insatiable obsession that clung her like a shadow. At first, it had been her mother's warning that guided her. Each gentle whisper, a reminder of the chaos her beauty could unleash. But as time wore on, she had cast aside the mask, emboldened by the focused resolve, believing she could defend against the hearts that sought to possess her. Yet now, in the stillness of the night, the truth unfurls before her. With every glance, she had sown seeds of longing and despair among those who dared to look upon her face. A twisted desire filled their eyes of those she had unknowingly hurt, haunted her. A patron wove that spread to regret and sorrow. So she lifted the mask to her face once again, this time not out of fear, but out of compassion. A profound desire to protect those she cared for from the tumultuous tides of her existence. As she fastened the delicate straps behind her head, the cool surface felt like an embrace, a promise to herself and to the world that she would no longer be a vessel of headache. In a new gesture, she found a bittersweet solace, a balance between her beauty and the burden it carried, transforming her pain into a quiet strength. So, you've decided to wear one again? A soft voice called behind her. Hunger stabbed at Yin's stomach as the scent of a human woman filled the room. The former phoenix pillar could feel her own sharp teeth dig into the insides of her mouth. "It's not for me anymore," she said quietly. She could feel a familiar presence focused its way out of the depths of her mind. "You're making foolish decisions, Yin. First you spare the Komodo boy, and now you seek refuge with the former pillar." Her head ran, causing her to gasp at her hair as a futile attempt to rid the former demon programmer from her thoughts. "Are you all right, Yin?" Kayako attempted to place a comforting hand on the woman's shoulder, but in the blink of an eye, Yin was on the other side of the room, shrouded in darkness. In the dim of the light, shadows danced along the walls like phantoms of her past, swirling the weight of memories that clung to her like a second skin. The former phoenix pillar stood there, heart racing, her hands trembling at her sides, each pause to remember of the slightest hunger growing within her, a hunger that roared with the frickle of thousands of demons. Once she had been a woman of compassion and determination, haunted by the trauma of her childhood, with the bitter taste of flesh and bone lingering in her mind like nightmares she could not shake. At least then, just the thought of consuming humans made her nauseous. Now fused with the incense of the creator of demons, his dark power coursing through her veins, epiphany of a demon's innate desire, urging to succumb to the primal instincts she fights so hard to suppress. Across the room, the woman who had raised her, the archer of her humanity, watched with eyes filled with love and concern. The warmth of the gaze stung her heart, a tenter of the life Yin desperately wished to preserve. As the cruel and unhinged whispers of Muzan echoed in her mind, sensitive, reckless, Yin pressed her palm against her chest, willing to storm within her quiet, to retreat. "Please, it's harder to handle. Each breath she took, a fickle act of defiance against the true nature she had been transformed into, as she clung to the hope that love could prevail over the darkness that craved her senses. A deep ache stabbed at Kyoko's heart as her eyes scanned over the figure of the young lady she had raised. Despite not being bound to her by blood, the bond they formed throughout the years was just as strong as any woman had with her child, though their appearance was nothing alike. The demon in front of her, the monster with such sad eyes, was her daughter. "You need to eat, Yin. It's only a matter of time before you cave. The woman's old, but she's a suitable source for now." Yin scrawled and fought herself, with every bone in her body. With the last of her crumbling solution, she rushed out the window and into the dark forest. Yin moved slightly among the shadows, her sharp senses heightened, an urge to devour human flesh clawing at the inside of her like a reckless beast. The red kimono she donned dragged along the dirt as she trudged through the quiet forest. With each step she took, a constable battle against the darkness that whispered in her ear, urging her to give in. As she walked, something shifted within her. Yin would not allow Muzan to win against her. Fighting back, she clenched her fist and grit her teeth, summoning every ounce of willpower to quell the hunger that threatened to consume her. As she fell to the floor, grasping the soil with her cold fingers, the whispers that trammeled her had finally ceased. Suddenly a sound pierced the stillness, a soft, heart-wrenching cry of a child. Unconditionally she followed the sound, her heart pounding in her chest as the instincts of her former self fought against the remains of her humanity. There, nestled against the grunted roots of a tree, sat a small boy, tears streaming down his cheeks, his little body shaking with quiet sobs. As she drew closer, the sweet scent of wisteria enveloped, mingling with the crisp night air, grounding her in a moment. It was a fragrance that involved memories of safety and peace, tugging the deepest parts of her heart. The child looked up, his wide eyes filled with fear and longing. I got lost," he whispered, voice trembling. I don't know how to go back." In that moment, her hunger faded, and laced by the overwhelming desire to protect this fragile soul, the boy's vulnerability pierced through the veil of her monstrous nature, and instead of the familiar urge to feast, she felt an urge to comfort. She knelt beside him, a fierce resolving igniting within her. "You're safe now," she said softly, her voice steady despite the tranquility within. "Let's get you home." And for the first time in a long while, she felt the glimmer of hope, a chance to be more than the darkness that sought to claim her. Yin carefully picked up the child. Once he felt the comfort of another's embrace, the little boy's eyes slowly fluttered shut, the last of his energy fading. Unwilling to leave the child alone, but unsure where to bring him, the Phoenix Demon had no choice but to bring the child back to the home she shared with her teacher.